We human beings are constantly plagued by the darkness of our inner fears and pains. Such is our condition. We all know the dark, stabbing feeling one gets in his chest, the heaviness clouding our mind with this uncertain kind of dread, the weight of the world crushing us down as the insignificant random particles we believe we are, thrown into a chaotic, uncaring, and profoundly unfair universe. And in modern society, it has become the norm for this weight to manifest as what we call anxiety. In our liberal, secular obsession of maximizing comfort and hedonism, we do everything in our power to soothe the pain, to dampen it with pills, booze, identity obsessions, vague, unfulfillable desires, or idiotic, ideological agendas. We simply do everything in our power so that we don't have to face it. But we need to. If we are to triumph and fulfill our potential as human beings, if our culture is to ever bloom in beauty again, we need to face the darkness, accept it, and show it what wonders can be done through light, strength, understanding, and virtues. So, in this talk, we will face the darkness, and we will triumph over it. Despite all the promises of material prosperity, we are currently witnessing an incredibly terrifying crisis of mental health. Worse is the fact that it disproportionately impacts the young population, the people who should inherit our society. And even worse is the fact that modern therapeutic approaches do not seem capable of addressing this issue on the necessary cultural scale. Just a disclaimer, I am not here to discuss any serious kind of real disorder. You should discuss such a thing with a real mental health professional. What I am trying to illustrate here is that we as a culture do not have a good understanding of what anxiety actually is and how to deal with it on the level of basic, everyday emotion. The main issue with anxiety is that it is a very formless kind of vague, anticipatory dread, without any specific purpose. Yes, it tries to manifest into obscure specific fears like, for example, agoraphobia, but we all know that this is not a healthy outlet for such a kind of emotion. Obviously, we have lost our capability to vent our formless kind of vague dread into something that would actually productively help us. Specific fears and phobias are just little tiny structures and patterns that grew by themselves in our personality thanks to the pressure of the immense, formless, inky sea of uncertainty. This profound human reality has already been noticed and beautifully illustrated in world's mythologies. Prometheus bears a name which means forward thinking, and while this ability to plan for the future made him capable of stealing the fire from gods, hidden in a hollow staff made from fennel stalk, it also condemned him to be crucified at a large rock with an eagle pecking his liver forever. This eagle is, of course, the undying and ever-present dread we need to feel if we are to be thinking, intelligent beings. Simply by the fact of our consciousness and cognitive abilities, we bring upon ourselves the realization of the infinite potential dangers. In the same manner can be understood the Christian creation myth, in which the primordial couple of Adam and Eve ate the apple of knowledge and were therefore condemned to toil the earth and suffer the pain of birth. This so-called original sin is simply a description of a causal effect, a description of reality as it is. Being smart means to consciously undergo the suffering of existence. However, both of these stories reveal to us that as opposed to our culture, these ancient ones had a much better understanding of the human condition. They understood that the formless energy of anxiety needs to be bound and anchored in specific mythological and cultural meanings. Such meanings rob anxiety of its ever-present formlessness. It forces a form upon it, making it into something that can be controlled and understood through this form. Suddenly, this previously ephemeral negativity becomes responsive to specific stimuli. It can be triumphed over in the specific context of its mythology. In the case of Prometheus, the forward-thinking man in shackles of the material world and with unending suffering burning his innards, it is eventually the archetypal hero Heracles, a symbol of bravery that frees him from the bondage of fear. It is the choice to be brave that triumphs over a specific form of fear. The curse of original sin is first countered by ancient Jewish religion through bargaining with reality. A covenant about mutual respect with a chaotic and cruel world is made. However, even more important in the context of Western civilization is the eventual story of Jesus himself. The concept of sin points to something very personal, while on the other hand, its inheritable nature makes this into a general human condition stemming from the capacity of our consciousness. The answer that Christianity brings is the answer of personal responsibility for one's soul. In the Christian vision, the anxiety we feel is formed into guilt, and this guilt is countered by the personal dedication to be a better, virtuous, and loving individual. Eventually, when you look at it this way, one suddenly can understand much better the fear, shame, guilt spectrum used to study human cultures. While originally this spectrum is described as showing which negative emotions society uses to enforce itself on individuals, it might be useful to look at it from a different angle. You, a human being, simply will be haunted by formless negative emotions, and the only societies that manage to survive long term are those that are capable of shaping these emotions by giving them specific forms, which can be countered by certain kinds of pro-social behaviors. The reason why we are living in an age of anxiety is very simple. We shattered all our previous frameworks, which helped us to give form to said anxiety, and therefore we have devolved back into the primordial state. The guilt-ridden generations, high on hysterical liberalism, created a new generation that was robbed of the possibility of feeling the inescapable trauma of existence in the correct, productive manner. This is the curse that will destroy petty, secular, material, liberal society. In its obsession with feeling good, it forgot how to be responsible about feeling bad. Trying to excise negativity with substances, booze, toxic positivity, and desires is as brutish of a method as is lobotomy. We as individuals cannot go down with the failing system of empty materialism. But since modernity itself is not really going anywhere, we cannot even afford to devolve back to previous, traditional modes of thinking. This ship has already sailed. Instead, we are tasked with a truly gargantuan quest. We need to find new answers which are in harmony with our current understanding of the universe, and we need to construct our mythological basis on these kinds of truths to the best of our knowledge. And currently, there is no demigod wizard to help us in this regard. Considering that currently we are not able to create a massive mythological corpus overnight, we need at least a temporary individual workaround. Let's look at anxiety honestly. Let us not think about a demon, but about a natural mechanism. Up until now, I have talked about this infinite ocean of darkness, trying to burst here and there out of our subconsciousness. But actually, under this mask is hidden, simply, one of our subpersonalities. The anxious part of you is just a program that comes as the default preset of your operating system. It is supposed to help you to overcome obstacles. The reason an anxious person finds it impossible to fight this formless dread is precisely because it refuses to rule over it. Such a person wants the pain to go away, because that's what he was told by the hedonistic liberal society, while instead he should try to accept the pain and make it useful. It is up to you, the orchestrator of the theater of your mind, to explain very explicitly to this program where and how precisely it should do its work. Now, this may seem like an impossible task, but I assure you, I've personally gone through the motions. I've seen many other people do so, and I don't believe there really is any other stable way of doing so, at least as far as our whole history suggests. For it to be possible, you cannot fight with a formless ocean of anxiety. You need to set your fears on a specific goal. Essentially, you are consciously trying to map what precise dangers and tasks are immediately at hand on whatever path you have chosen to tread on. Don't waste your fears on abstract infinities. Do not create demons where you don't have to. If you choose specific fears, bound to specific dangers, then of course you can choose conscious strategies of mitigating them and triumphing over them. If you break your fears into small pieces of imminent threats, then you can personally witness yourself overcoming these specific threats. And every time you do so, you need to consciously realize that you have just succeeded, and it is thanks to your inner fear which helped you to describe and overcome these specific threats. And suddenly, you have a partnership. You can acknowledge and even praise the anxious subpersonality for doing its work. And while at it, you can even formulate specific evaluations and suggestions for the next task. You and your fear can evolve together as responsible adult beings, eventually transforming yourself into a much braver person and your fear into a much more polite crisis manager. In this manner, you move from the realm of neuroticism into a realm of respect and cooperation with your own inner mechanisms.